Welcome to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Sharlot Hall Museum. And my special guest today here in Prescott, Arizona is Joe Webster. Joe, thanks for being on the show today.
You're welcome. I would appreciate being here.
Now, Joe, your career in photography has spanned quite a few decades and seen a lot of changes in technology. But just before the show started, you said that you've been a Prescottonian. You've been here in Prescott since about 2005?
2005, yes.
So when guests come on the show, and it's great to get to know you, and I greatly admire your photography. But how did your trail lead to Prescott, Arizona?
Well, I was in the military in Phoenix, and a friend of mine became the director of Sharlot Hall Museum. And when we were stationed in Phoenix, we'd come up and visit him, Ken Kimsey.
Okay, sure.
And came up here. And if I could have found a way to make a living in Prescott 50 years ago, I'd have been here.
Right.
Because I love the city. And so traveled around the country, went through Southern California, Oregon, Texas, and back to Plano because I really liked it when I retired.
Now, when you were in the military, were you at Luke Air Force Base
I
or
was.
at Williams? Luke Air Force Base?
Luke Air Force Base, yes.
And were you in photography there or in aviation? On what side of or communications?
I was a medic.
A medic. All right.
Yes. I worked in the lab, and I wanted to be a photographer when I joined the Air Force. And they made me a medic. And the only thing I could think about is I've got a Red Cross on my helmet. They're going to send me to Vietnam. And the first thing they shoot at is a helmet.
Right.
With a Red Cross on it. And I didn't want any part of that.
Sure. Well, what's interesting is Jay Dussard was also in the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
And he was I believe, in West Texas towards El Paso. And on his days off, he started traveling over into southern New Mexico and Arizona and learned to cowboy down on the Malpai Ranch with the Glenn family.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he wanted to be a photographer too. So how long were you in the Air Force and stationed here in Arizona?
I was here for 3.5 years, and I spent 2.5 years in inactive reserves. And I was recruited to be a salesman for a medical company and moved to Oregon.
And so when did you start, as a hobbyist, picking up, photography as something you enjoyed to do on your off time?
Well, I was a photographer in high school, photographed for the local newspaper and for the yearbook. And I was studying to be a professional. I studied under a professional photographer for years on darkroom cameras, portraits. And as a matter of fact, I shot my wife's senior portrait, and that's how we met.
How about that? I like that.
And so anyway, after I got into the military, didn't have a whole lot of time for photography. And when I started in a real job,
mm-hmm.
I didn't shoot. I did, while I was in the military, I did a little freelance work to augment my $49 a month.
Right.
And so after I got out and retired, I said one of the things I wanted to do was go back to photography. So in 2005, when we moved here, I started photography again.
Well, how about that? And by that time, were you still working in film, or had you moved to digital by 2005?
When I was working in the medical industry, I found one of my customers was a researcher on DNA. And he had a digital camera, which cost $10,000 at the time, and a digital processor, which was about $20,000. And when I saw that, I thought, if this ever reaches the consumer market, it will change the way photography is done.
Right.
And my first digital camera was in the 90s.
How about that? So you were right there on the front end of that.
On the front end, yes. And I've had digital cameras ever since. I still shoot as if I'm shooting film.
Mm-hmm.
Try to get it right in the camera. Although recently, with the advent of certain AI techniques that are in photo processing in the computer, I have decided that I'm no longer a photographer. I'm a digital artist.
Interesting. That's a very interesting way to look at it. I was reflecting on when you started in digital photography. I was at Arizona Highways magazine. I was their research editor from 1993 to 2000, and that was the era when a lot of conversation was starting about digital photography, because a traditional magazine like Arizona Highways in those days, it was still, transparencies, 35 millimeter, and then large format all the way up to, I think Jerry Jacka was submitting eight, or in the Munches, David Munch was submitting 8.5 by 11, large, full size transparencies, which were just, truly amazing just to see, let alone what it must be like to be in the field to be taking that size of a color image, and there was still places that were where you could send that film out to be processed.
Yeah. Well, there are very few processors on film right now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard to find film. Now, there is a resurgence for people who are doing film. I did a workshop with a photographer for Arizona Highways,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, "Oh, I'll never switch to digital." And he did.
Yeah.
Because it's getting really expensive to find film. Getting E6 process is very difficult, and not too many people are doing it anymore.
Right.
And the cost of a sheet of transparency is extraordinarily expensive.
Yeah. And part of that era was also that it was the first era in which, or real era in terms of photos being scanned and then being able to be improved. And we did a cover on Arizona Highways magazine in the mid 90s. It was a cover story on John Wayne and John Ford in Monument Valley. And the cover story was with John Ford, John Wayne, and I think it was Cornelius Vanderbilt Whitney. I believe it was one of the producers of The Searchers. And John Wayne had a cigarette in his hand, as he did in those days. He was a chain smoker. And our editor, Bob Early, decided that John Wayne shouldn't be holding a cigarette on the cover of Arizona Highways magazine. Very controversial decision within the magazine. And then after it got out, people asked, well, did you take that cigarette out? And there was back and forth. Should the cover have been published with the cigarette or not the cigarette? And I don't know if there's ever a right answer on that question, but that was when people first started going, well, how can we believe what's in, if you're going to take the cigarette out, how can we believe if that's the true color of the photo or that's the true color of the animal? And I think that remains kind of part of the trust between the photographer and the publisher, to create, because now we've got AI, and this is a big subject.
Well, painters for thousands of years have changed what they see.
Right.
And Ansel Adams took 27 years to get his Moonrise over Hernandez, New Mexico out the door.
Right.
Because he did dudging and burning, and he redid it, and he did all kinds of stuff to it, changed the contrast and those sort of things, which wasn't AI.
Right.
But it was changing what he saw.
Uh-huh.
The original negative of that is something that I would have thrown away.
Very interesting.
And yet he came out with a photograph that was essentially what changed photography into fine art. And so I feel that as long as if you're using AI, as long as you tell your audience, this is what I did to this photograph. The painter takes out a fence. I take out a fence. I put in clouds. Painter puts in clouds. And it is controversial. But if I do something to fundamentally change that image, I'm going to tell my audience that that's what I've done.
Right.
I only seem that that's fair.
Most definitely. And that's why, and we're going to take a break here real quick to thank our sponsors, but the evolution between being a photographer and a digital artist. All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll come back and talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
Life is full of moments we want to cherish forever. But when the unexpected happens, having compassionate guidance makes all the difference. For over 120 years, Ruffner Wakeland Funeral Homes and Crematory has been helping families in Prescott and Central Arizona honor their loved ones with care and dignity. At Ruffner Wakeland, they believe every life deserves a unique celebration. From personalized ceremonies to heartfelt support, we're here to guide you every step of the way. Ruffner Wakeland Funeral Home, here for you at your time of need. Visit ruffnerwakeland.com for more information.
Welcome back to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Sharlot Hall Museum in Prescott, Arizona. And my special guest today is Joe Webster. Joe is a master photographer. He's going to be teaching a photography workshop here in coming up here in a very short time period at Sharlot Hall Museum. And in our break, Joe just showed me something I'd never seen before, and that is a lifetime membership of Sharlot Hall Museum. Well, Joe, we really appreciate that. That is fantastic. I love that. 12/31/2099. Wow, how about that?
Yeah, I'm planning on being around for the end of it.
That's good. I like that. I hope I'm here too. Who knows what cameras will look like in 2099, right?
Yeah.
You can only imagine, right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine the type of camera that you're using today, even 30 years ago?
Absolutely not. 30 years ago when I was doing it, it was a 35 millimeter film camera.
Right.
And it was pretty fair size. But then the first digital camera that I used was about 4 inches long.
Fit in your pocket.
Fit in your pocket. In fact, I use a digital camera now that fits in my pocket, as well as being one that's much larger.
So do your that camera that you first had, that first 4 by 6 inch digital camera that fit in your pocket, and the one that you carry today, is there a great difference in the images that you can create with those two cameras?
Night and day.
Yeah.
The earlier ones were less than 2 megapixels.
Mm-hmm. So a Brownie camera compared to
now some of the cameras have 64 megapixel sensors.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, there's some professional image equipment that's hundreds of megapixels, and but it's a big change,
right?
And then with the software now, that you can add grain or you can take away grain. You can add noise. You can change colors. All the things that you couldn't do once you were working with film.
Right. So when you first started as a photographer, have you been? I notice you have what kind of camera do you have today here?
I have a Nikon mirrorless camera.
All right. Have you always been a Nikon photographer, or were you a Olympus or a Canon photographer? Have you been loyal to Nikon all these years?
When I first got my first 35 millimeter camera, it was a post-World War II German Praktika.
Okay.
It had no prism in it. When you looked into the image from the top down, everything was upside down and backwards.
All right. I think Barry Goldwater carried a camera like that.
He did. And when I started in the photo studio in Illinois, our dealer, we became a Nikon dealer. And the president of Nikon USA had built for me a custom Nikon camera. I'm sticking with Nikon.
Oh, yeah. Sounds like it.
Yeah. So I've always appreciated the fact that their equipment is very well built. The cameras are like a tank.
Mm-hmm. And so when you first started, you said you met your wife, your future wife, taking her senior portrait. And so you started out, you had some experience taking portraiture, but obviously I've seen your website. You have a great curiosity and interest in many aspects of our life around us as a photographer: flora and fauna, wildlife, landscapes, the beauty of the American Southwest. Tell us a little bit about what drew you to your interest in photography and what people might learn when they come to our workshop here at Sharlot Hall Museum.
Okay, what got me interested in photography. I played football in high school. I got tired of really getting beat up, and the local photographer came to me and he said, "You want to work for me?" And I said, "Sure, why not? It's a whole lot better than getting beat up."
Right.
So anyway, he taught me darkroom techniques and all aspects of photography. And we did things like commercial photography for local businesses. We did portraits. We did yearbook photographs, weddings. Hated weddings. And
Got to have some patience to be a wedding photographer.
and even one time I shot funerals. It was a big thing in the Midwest.
Yeah.
And so anyway, as I traveled with the Air Force, I got to where I got to looking at things like localities, architecture, things like that, and found them very interesting. And when I came here, one of the reasons that I retired to Arizona is landscapes are fantastic.
Right.
So everybody started shooting landscapes. So I said, well, something has to change. So I started shooting night photography.
Really? That's fascinating.
And then people started shooting night photography. Then I went into macro photography.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started things like workshops and programs for museums, libraries, clubs.
Mm-hmm.
And it sparked my interest to do a variety of other kinds of photography.
Right. And did you find yourself with let's say with the macro photography, has that something you've continued? Is it something you're going to teach at our upcoming workshop here at Sharlot Hall?
What I'm going to do here at the workshop is not specifically teach technique for photography. What I want to do is, because so many people now are using social media for outlets for their photography,
Mm-hmm.
and they take snapshots.
Right.
What I want to do is introduce them to the things that will make them expand their horizon for different kinds of photography that they can do, and how to make the images better so that people who are taking those images with a cell phone or a point and shoot camera can be proud of their image. They can hang it on the wall. They can put it in a museum. They can hang it on or go to a gallery, or continue with their social media outlets.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Well, let's take a quick break here, and we're going to come back and talk a little bit more specifics about the workshop. But I also want to ask you a few questions about some of the artists that inspired you at a younger age to follow your muse into photography.
At Foothills Bank, they're not just about banking. They're about people, community, and building futures. Whether you're managing personal finances, growing your business, planning for retirement, or buying your dream home, their friendly team is there to guide you every step of the way. Stop by your local Foothills Bank today. It's more than just banking. It's a partnership for success. Foothills Bank is a division of Glacier Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Welcome back to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Sharlot Hall Museum. And my special guest today is Joe Webster. And Joe, you and I are having a great conversation today about the evolution of photography, your evolution as a photographer. And one of the reasons we're sitting down to talk today is not only because of your passion and your artistry as a photographer, but two things are happening here at Sharlot Hall Museum this summer. We are having a photo contest. It's the first summer photo contest that I know of at Sharlot Hall Museum, if ever, for many years. That contest is happening from June 1st to August 30th, and it's dedicated, the theme is the colors of summer. And if you're interested in entering our photo contest here at Sharlot Hall Museum, go to charlottehallmuseum.org. Look up the information on our summer photo contest. All the photography must be digital, and the entries must be in by August 30th. Now, in the midst of that, on August 20th, we have a workshop here that you're going to be leading, Joe. And it's $20 per person. People can go online to charlottehallmuseum.org and sign up for the workshop. It's going to be on August 20th, I believe from 10 to 4. And you can go online to purchase your ticket. That's right. Oh, no, not 10 to 4, 10 to 12 on August 20th. And let's talk a little bit about the two activities, the photo contest as well as the workshop. Now, Joe, are you going to be involved in judging the photo contest? Are you part of that?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
I'm available to do that.
Right.
I've judged photo contests all over the country, and I enjoy doing it. And I would like to do that.
All right.
I think that based on the things that I'm presenting at the workshop, the first part of it will be a presentation on how to make stronger images. It's called The Basics of Better Photography. And part of that will be expanding your horizons, looking at different kinds of photographs that you can do either with a cell phone, a point-and-shoot camera, or expensive gear. It's geared for not only the novice, but also the advanced amateur. And it will be first part of it will be the presentation. The second part of it is we'll send them out into the grounds to take some pictures, bring them back in, and I'll project images and we'll have a critique.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I think that sounds very interesting. And I think for a lot of us who, of all ages, and some of your students will probably only have known digital photography or only known photography from their phone, but they're wanting to learn more. Many of us started with I think my first camera was a 124 film, then maybe 110, because we went to 110 because that it would fit in your pocket, those 110 cameras. And then if we were really interested, we worked for the money, had our parents help us get a 35 millimeter camera, or maybe we found one of our grandparents' cameras that was from the 50s, and we started experimenting with photography, or at school. But myself, I have a 35 millimeter digital camera, but the phone has become so ubiquitous. You're just like, oh, this is so easy. I just pull it out of my pocket, snap, snap, snap. And I think many times now we're taking pictures. We can take as many as we want. And in many ways, we've probably reverted to our 12-year-old self with that old, 124 or 110 camera where you're like, snapshot. Oh, you're not even framing the picture. You're just like, oh, I'll take a picture. Oh, I only have 24 pictures. Well, I better slow down my picture taking. But do you find people that are returning to their interest in how to take a picture? Is that one of the things that they're going to learn at your workshop? Slow it down, remind yourself about, move away from the new digital snapshot life to actually thinking about what you're doing.
Well, the first time that I became aware of iPad and cell phone cameras, I was shooting fall colors in Oak Creek Canyon.
Okay.
And this person came by and stood in front of me with an iPad and took a picture. And I'm thinking, I will never, ever do that. I just got back from Europe. I shot over 1,100 pictures on my cell phone. And one of the things that I discovered is that everybody out there has a cell phone.
Right.
And they're taking pictures with it. But when they post them online on or their social media,
right,
they're junk.
Right.
It's a snapshot.
Right.
It doesn't tell a story. It's, oh, look at this face. And what I want to do is I want to get people to think in terms of photography as art. There are things that you can do, even with a cell phone, that will make your pictures stand out.
I think this is going to be a great workshop. I'm really excited about you coming here because living here in Arizona, which is a destination for photographers worldwide. Arizona highways helped that a little bit, maybe a lot over the year. A lot.
I've been an Arizona highways person for 50 years, maybe.
Right. And it's inspired photographers, it's inspired writers, poets, artists of all kind. And I think one of the things I'm excited about, not only our photo contest here at Sharlot Hall Museum and your workshop, is everything is moving so fast in the digital age. Everything is coming to you. You're walking around with your phone and like, oh, that's beautiful. Snap. Oh, look at that. Snap. Oh, I'm in my car. Snap. And oh, look at that rainbow. Snap. And we have forgotten to slow down to actually even enjoy the moment of taking that photograph, which with the camera, with film, it was expensive to process. And as you evolved as an amateur photographer, you realized, okay, if I'm going to come home with a couple of photographs that are worthy, I need to slow down and enjoy where I'm standing, right at the Grand Canyon or at Sedona or in your backyard and there's a butterfly or it's just your puppy. I don't know if the digital camera doesn't, everything's moving so fast. I think we're asking people to kind of slow down, enjoy the moment.
Well, one of the things that happens with the cell phone, for example, it does a lot of things, but there are certain things that it cannot do. And one of the things about slowing down is that gives you an opportunity to look at your surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
People miss a lot of things because I can take this picture. Oh, look, there's something. Flip. But what you missed is there's something else there going on, and you need to look for that. And you hit the nail on the head when you said, slow down. One of the things that in one of the classes that I teach is use a tripod. Not because you have to hold your camera still, but it forces you to slow down and look at the surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people are missing.
Right.
They don't get to see stuff. Oh, I can take this picture and then I'll look at my cell phone. Well, there was something else going on there. Where is it?
Right.
And they didn't see it because they were in such a hurry to get that snap. What I want to do in the workshop is I want people to slow down, look at your surroundings, make sure that you're seeing everything that's there. You might take this picture here and the picture is really behind you. But because you're playing around with your cell phone, you don't take the time to look and see what's there. A photographer that I really like is Colleen Minook, lives in Phoenix. And one of her tenets is that when everybody's shooting that way, you turn around and shoot that way. And what that forces you to do is look at your surroundings, and that will help you make better pictures.
Well, let's take a quick break there. And we're going to come back and talk about how people can be inspired to take better pictures for our photo contest here at Sharlot Hall Museum. Remind them about what they're going to learn at your photo workshop, which I hope is one of first. And then talk a little bit more about some of your favorite places and objects or living things you like to take photos of. Joe, and inspire our listeners today. We'll be right back on Arizona Roundup.
Well, thank you, Joe. Thank you, Stuart. This is fascinating. My name is Stan. I'm the radio man, and I'm the leader of the Cowboy Spirit Radio Network, and I'm the one who has the privilege and the pleasure of helping to put this wonderful program together. And I think I just kind of came up with a good name as a result of listening to it, from Snapshots to Soul Shots. Joe Webster's call to see differently through the lens. Yeah, see differently. Hey, enjoy the program. We got one more round to go, but then you think about at the Sharlot Hall Museum, here we go, there's going to be a photography workshop. the basics of better photography, and it's at the Sharlot Hall Museum. And of course, Joe, the cameraman, the photo man, he will be there to teach and to lead and some guide, and you are invited. The cost is $20 per person. That's a bargain. And it's Tuesday, August 20th, 10 a.m. to noon. 10 a.m. to noon on Tuesday, August 20th at the Sharlot Hall Museum in beautiful Prescott, Arizona. You know, the mile-high cowboy city, everybody's favorite hometown. So give that some thought. We'll kind of remind you of that as we go along, but put it on your schedule now. Sounds like a good thing to do, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you.
Welcome back to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Sharlot Hall Museum. And our guest today is Joe Webster, and we're having a wonderful time talking about photography, the artistry of the skill of photography, how to apply yourself, and how to slow down in this fast-paced world and enjoy what you're seeing before you snap that camera or your phone. I think it's a very good conversation to have, Joe, because we're all just moving so quickly, and information's coming to us so quickly on our phones or our homes. We've kind of forgotten to, as they say, it sounds like a cliche, but to stop and smell the roses, or smell the summer rain, and be in the moment. Here in Arizona, you've talked a little bit about the Sedona and Grand Canyon, but I also noticed on your website that you enjoy taking photographs of birds and wildlife and landscapes. What do you find brings you a lot of pleasure right now, Joe, as a photographer, in those arenas of those genres of photography?
Right now, I'm focusing on shooting birds.
Okay, that sounds very interesting.
Interesting because Arizona is a crossroads for migratory birds, both east and west, and north and south. Birds fly over Arizona and they stop in Prescott. Watson Lake and Willow Lake are great repositories for migrating birds.
I didn't know that. That's very interesting.
In the spring. We even have pelicans here.
Really?
So
we had pelicans in Iowa City, which along the lakes in the Iowa River there's a whole group that came through every single year.
And birds are multicolored. They provide really a challenge to stop action, to get a variety of birds in a variety of locales, and Prescott is a great place to do that.
And when did you first get interested in shooting wildlife?
Well, a photographer that I really like is a guy named Franz Lanting.
Okay.
Franz Lanting has such patience. He went to Brazil, sat for several days waiting to photograph one bird.
Amazing.
And when I saw that, I thought, wow, that's really terrific. And I'm not going to throw a plug in here for the Lookout, but they have a photo contest in the fall about birds.
Okay, and tell me about the Lookout.
That it used to be called the Jay's Bird Barn.
Oh, okay, right here. It's up on...
it's on Black Drive right now.
All right.
And they have a contest that inspired me to go looking at birds.
And have you sat for more than a day to take a picture of a bird?
I sit out on my patio for hours with my telephoto lens on a tripod, waiting for hummingbirds and grosbeaks and a whole variety of different kinds of birds in the backyard.
And do you have to kind of create some kind of shade for yourself, or
I sit on the patio; it's covered.
No, but I mean, like some people go into a duck blind if they're hunting. But do you ever have to use a bird blind to get that photo?
No.
You know, get out there in your camo out into the forest and camp yourself out and in the trees and or go up in the trees to wait for that shot.
No, I don't do that.
Some people do.
Some people do. No, what I mostly do is, like if I go to Watson Lake, for example, there are a variety of birds out there. And I'll stake the tripod out and sit and wait,
It's like fishing.
just like fishing, and I have a lot of fun doing that.
Mm-hmm. And so I know that one of the birds that I grew up, my mom has a passion for, is the hummingbird. I think I saw some hummingbirds on your website. Is that one of the birds that you like to? Is a challenge, but also is it when you capture it correctly is one of those aha moments?
It is. I have one that's one of my favorite is that I have a nest of hummingbird babies,
Oh my!
and the mother is feeding it. And I've won several contests with that.
Wow! That takes patience, slowing down,
Slowing down.
enjoying the moment around you as the light changes. So as you said, one of the things that I think I remember we were talking about Jay Dussard, and I have a Jay Dussard, uh, the, one of his photographs in my office here, one of his posters. I remember working with Jay, and I'd watch him, and he'd have his little notebook out, and he'd bracket, he'd be like, okay, and he'd watch the light, and he'd set up the shot, he'd see his frame, and when you're doing wildlife photography, do you do that as well? Kind of watch the light change, and you have to change your aperture. And does the camera do more for you now than it did in the past in terms of, your lighting and
One of the
bracketing?
things that I'll talk about is let the camera do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Modern cameras are set up in such a way that they do a lot of the work for you.
Okay.
Back when I started, everybody wanted a Weston's light meter because they were the standard for the industry.
Right.
So you went around and you checked all the light around, and then you set up your exposure based on your light meter. And it might take, if you were shooting a landscape, it might take 4 or 5 minutes to get the light right the way you wanted it to shoot the image. I've been to Grand Canyon dozens of times, and the light changes every time I'm there.
Sure, of course.
But I let the camera do the work for me.
Right.
Because it will do the exposure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you're familiar with your equipment and you know how to set it up before you get there, then you can get the image that you want.
That's fantastic. All right, Joe, let's remind our listeners that if they're interested in coming to your workshop, it's August 20th, 10 to 12 o'clock. It's your first workshop here. It's going to be held here at Sharlot Hall Museum. 2 hours, tickets are $20. You can go to charlottehallmuseum.org to sign up. And then we also have a photo contest, which is running through August 30th. Details are on our website again, charlottehallmuseum.org. And photos can only be digital photographs to enter in our contest. And if you were going to give some people some tips today, if they want to enter the contest, because all of us have muses, all of us also have people that we admire. What were some tips today you would have for some people if they want to enter this photo contest? Would you have them go to your website, and where would they go see your photographs to be inspired, Joe?
Well, I took down my website simply because that the price was going up and I wasn't getting my money's worth.
Right. And I found your photographs online. You have at least a gallery online.
Right.
And what's that website? Do you know?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. But I think I know that I went in and I typed in Joe Webster and I found some of your photography. And what are some other photographers? If you said, go look at this photographer online, he does a great job with birds or with wildlife or with macro photography. Is there anywhere you would send people to?
Well, I can tell you some people that I really admire as photographers. There's a photographer here in town named Dave Drost, and his photographs are at the Black Arrow.
All right.
He is a superb photographer. In fact, I wish I could shoot as well as he does.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking at black and white, like your cell phone, you can shoot black and white on your cell phone. Go look at Ansel Adams.
Oh, everyone loves Ansel Adams.
If you're shooting portraits, for example, look at, there are a whole bunch of them on If you were looking at doing portraits, look at Alfred Stieglitz or Imogene Cunningham, Margaret Bourke-White.
Love Margaret Bourke-White. Huge fan of hers. Huge fan.
Yeah.
In the Library of Congress, you can go to the Library of Congress and type in Margaret Bourke-White, and you'll see a lot of her photographs there.
Yeah.
Also at the Met, they have a lot of her photographs. And I'm also looking at a wonderful website here called joewebster.zenfolio.com, and I highly recommend it to our listeners to go check out joewebster.zenfolio.com. And there's one of your beautiful hummingbird photos there, Joe. You really are quite an artist, and we're very fortunate to have you leading this workshop on August 20th and coming in here today to talk about photography. And I hope that next time we come back, we're going to talk about, I'd like to have you on the show and sit down and talk about photographers and filmmakers who have helped change the genre of photography and filmmaking.
I would love to do that. And I would like to do a presentation called Wild West to Wild Hollywood, the evolution of the movie Cowboy and Cowgirl.
All right. Well, I would love to have you come and do that. And so we will talk to our those who schedule our lectures and have you in here, Joe, to do that presentation.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Stuart. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome, Joe.
Thank you.
And we'll be back next week on Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Sharlot Hall Museum. Thanks for listening.